Dear Prime Minister, have you ever been to Eastbourne after 8 o'clock on a Friday night? I was there a couple of months ago with a friend. We'd gone to see a film, and walking down the high street afterwards, it struck me that something was terribly wrong. Young men and women were being sick in the streets, and in most of the doorways there was a small group of burly men standing motionless with their hands clasped in front of them. But it was the atmosphere that struck me the most, what was being expressed in this place. I asked myself whether I was afraid. I didn't think so. It was more an overriding sense of unease, of dis-ease, of the fear inherent in all of us, which had slithered so close to the surface. My friend and I could smell it. The violence that comes from fear was barely being contained in that place. I was aware too that this was a scene that's played and replayed in most of our towns and cities on Friday and Saturday nights. But it's not your fault. I'm sure every Prime Minister does the best they can in what must be an incredibly difficult job. No, it's as if we have all gone mad, have been driven mad, and we just don't know it. You could say it was high spirits. That night in Eastbourne, just young people having fun, and so they should. But it didn't seem like fun. It seemed as if they were ill. Most of them, it appeared, had money, but they were spending it quite literally to get out of their heads or off their faces. It was both a mass bid for escape and a lament on the conditions of their captivity. There is help for some of them, for the worst cases, counselling, methadone, safe houses, and I know you do what you can. I also know that the numbers in jail are going up and that new prisons are being built all the time. Of course, some of this has to do with the fact that the population of humans on this beautiful hunk of land is increasing, but some of it hasn't. Shouldn't the success of our society be measured by the fact that prisons have had to close because they're simply not needed anymore? And yet, time and time again, all through my life, rows of Home Secretaries have promised to build more prisons or to pay for more policemen and policewomen. The writer and campaigner, Alistair McIntosh, says there is no more noble cause than bringing beauty to ugliness. Are we all suffering from a lack of beauty? Not in the sense that beauty doesn't exist, but in the sense that we cannot see it anymore. Is it conceivable that the job of government should be to increase instances of beauty rather than merely to seek to contain ugliness? That prisons should be places of beauty? On that subject, I'm sure you have been to many business parks with the aim of fostering enterprise, which seems a strange word for creativity. Business parks look like prisons. On the weekends, they even feel like prisons, where the inmates have been told that there is no talking and they've been locked up in their cells. Occasionally, because I'm broke most of the time, I do a day's work when it's offered to me in a business park. And there I'm surrounded by other human beings, all striving for what we imagine to be a better life, which most people seem to agree is not having to strive as much while lapping up an exuberant standard of living. Usually in the pre-election speeches, the phrase standard of living seems to be repeated over and over again. And inherent within that phrase is the idea that those who have less should have more, and that those who have more should have even more. And encouraged by this underlying assumption, the creed of business is more, more, more. More sales, more products, and of course, more money. This raison d'etre seems to be to pay as little for raw materials and services, but to charge as much as possible for making them available to everyone else in the hopes of making more money. Some businesses go to extraordinary lengths to convince us how cheap their products are, that they are bargains, in order to tempt us to give away to give them more of our money. But this creed of more always means more for some and less for others. The people who have the most are probably the most unwell. These people are in the unfortunate position of believing that by having more, they will feel better. And for a little while, perhaps they might. But it is as if they have been hypnotized. They cannot feel injustice. They seem completely unaware of the consequences of their actions. And once they have had more, they want more. And once you are addicted to more, you can never have enough. Those who don't have more are encouraged to want it. Some of these people have to endure such damning descriptions as living below the poverty line, or they are labeled as something called poor. Most of them may need help, and some of them do get it. I know all governments try to offer what they see as help, but I'm not sure they are the ones that really need the help. Surely the plain fact is that those with less are taking less, and they are using less. Whenever there is a big demonstration in the City of London, many of these people with less can be found protesting about the creed of more. I have often felt that the police are arresting the wrong people at such events, that the real damage is being done by those who are apparently respectable, not by those who are shouting and holding placards. And I feel this creed of more, of getting us to continually buy more and have more, is what is really leading all of us into catastrophe. Over the next 100 years, there will be more human beings needing more water, more food, more raw materials. Shouldn't your government be encouraging all of us to live with less and rewarding those who do, rather than encouraging those who don't? And 3 weeks ago, I was walking through the eastern desert of Egypt with a group of Bedouin men. One of the many things that left an impression on me was the fact that if there was a catastrophe which left no food in the shops, they would barely notice it. They live in harmony with their landscape, inasmuch as the land supports them and they support it. They understand what they were looking at in the land around them, what plants were good for food, which plants were good for medicine, for humans and camels. They were in relationship with their environment. And they told me the desert was becoming drier more and more, like the moon. Now, this might be a natural cycle of nature, or it might not. But that's not actually the point, is it? Even if global warming isn't happening, we are still behaving as if we are insane when it comes to our relationship with the natural world. And our relationship with the natural world perfectly describes the perilous state it is now in. In the name of more, usually more human beings, the natural world is being ethnically cleansed and looked at from the perspective of a butterfly or an osprey or a snow leopard. We humans are like a despotic, insecure monarch with a pathological need to suppress and control. Statements such as they were treated like animals should really alarm us, because they confirm that under human dominion, it is acceptable to treat animals in such an appalling manner. And when the state of more collapses, which it surely will, the suffering which we will all endure as a result will be nothing other than awful. But from that abyss, we will have a chance to build a new earth and form a new relationship with the natural world, one that is based on harmony. Harmony with each other and with our environment will help us to form, inform, and develop a new understanding of what being human is all about. Then, we will be able to build with the earth, to farm with her. But we can only have harmony when we realize that our addiction to more is what creates the disharmony within our current state of being. You see, to adhere to the state of more, I need to be in almost a constant state of agitation, essentially dissatisfied and continually craving. And surely, over the generations, it has been proved that continually craving more has not, in fact, created happiness. Far from it. I have a feeling that until we place harmony at the center of all that we strive for, all that we create, then our health service, our relationship with the environment, and even our foreign policy, based on it is as the needs of the economy, can never lead to harmony. We will never find peace through striving for prosperity. On that point, I do have something that my Bedouin brothers don't have, and that is a nuclear weapon. All the young men and women in Eastbourne, they have one as well. And the holders of nuclear weapons appear to be in a very powerful position, because in a conflict situation, our destructive power far outweighs that of those who do not possess them. Therefore, it's quite natural that everyone else should want one. Surely the present is a continual unfolding of the future. So what we do in the present moment actually describes what the next moment will be in all instances relating to ourselves. My country, which is a notion I find increasingly unpalatable, has declared war countless times, sometimes necessarily, and other times, I'm afraid, just as a cover for acquiring more. But have we ever, in our history, declared peace? I don't mean the signing of peace treaties which invariably take place after the horror of conflict. I mean a declaration of peace. This act of declaring peace would involve giving up all our weapons of mass destruction, our bombs, our tanks, our guns, and declaring to the world that we no longer believe that killing can be morally justified. Nor can the use of violent force as a means of persuasion, as a means to get our own way, and yes, even as a means of defense, be justified. I don't know. Maybe we feel so much more than we realize. Maybe we respond to the tone of a place. And in that respect, those beautiful young men and women in Eastbourne were partying like there was no tomorrow. And they appeared to be doing everything in their power to forget where they were. Up here on the moon, the planet Earth shines so brightly. It is luminous, blues and greens, yellows and whites, and I can sit here for hours just looking at it. It is so beautiful. I wish you well, Peter.